The wind howled outside the large, crumbling mansion atop the hill. Its windows rattled, and the moonlight barely pierced through the thick clouds. Inside, Emma Watson, not that Emma, but a young writer named Emma, stood at the threshold, suitcase in hand, heart pounding with curiosity and fear. Emma had inherited this old mansion from a distant relative she hardly knew, an uncle she never met. The letter arrived with strange instructions. She was to come and live in the mansion for 1 year. Only then would she fully receive her inheritance, including the land surrounding it. Many had refused this odd condition, but Emma, ever adventurous and in need of a new start, accepted. She arrived on a cold evening in November. The mansion's door creaked open as she pushed it. The air inside smelled musty, like aged wood and old perfume. Curtains hung heavy. Dust motes danced in the weak moonlight. The grand hall was dimly lit by a single chandelier, most bulbs unlit. She called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" Only silence answered. She dragged her bags inside, exploring room by room. The wallpaper peeled, the carpets moth-eaten, and the portraits along the hall showed stern faces whose eyes seemed to follow her. In the first night, she slept in the master bedroom, though uneasy. She awoke at midnight to a faint whispering. She forced herself awake, heart racing, but heard nothing more. The next morning, she discovered her journals from earlier had been moved slightly, as if someone had rummaged them. Over the following days, Emma tried to bring life into the mansion. She lit candles, cleaned dust, and explored the grounds. In the library, she found a locked drawer in a desk. The key was missing. On the walls, antique clocks ticked even though they were long dead. She felt an unseen presence, a chill, a whisper, or a shadow at the corner of her eye. One evening, as she sat reading by candlelight, she heard footsteps upstairs. She followed, heart in throat, to the long corridor. Doors opened and shut on their own. At the far end, a tall mirror stood. She approached, and in the reflection she saw a pale figure behind her, but when she spun around, no one was there. The glass fogged briefly, then cleared. Her breath rushed. She slammed the mirror's door. Yes, the mirror had a frame door, and retreated. Gradually, Emma discovered hints. Old letters hidden behind panels, speaking of a tragic love story, a betrayal, and a spirit bound to the mansion. The letters told of a woman, Isabella, who long ago had loved a man named Victor. Victor betrayed her for wealth. In despair, Isabella took her life in the mansion's highest tower. Her spirit, it seemed, could not leave until justice or forgiveness was granted. Emma felt sympathy for Isabella. By daylight, she researched old records in the nearby village. She found hints that Victor's heirs, including her uncle, had suppressed the truth. She also learned that Isabella's remains had never been properly laid to rest. Determined, Emma resolved to free the spirit. One stormy night, Emma climbed to the tower, where she found a hidden compartment in the wall, behind a fresco. Inside it lay a small locket and a torn love letter. She held them in trembling hands as thunder roared. Suddenly, a spectral figure appeared. Isabella's ghost, pale, eyes filled with grief. Emma spoke softly. "I found your locket, your letter. I will help you be at peace." The spirit drifted closer, sorrowfully reaching for Emma's hand. Then a sudden shock. The portrait of Victor tumbled from the wall, crashing to the floor. The ghost recoiled, anguished. Emma realized that to free the spirit, she must publicly reveal the betrayal, restore Isabella's name, and lay her remains in consecrated ground. She promised to do so. In the next days, Emma arranged a small ceremony in the mansion's old chapel. She rang the old bell, invited local clergy and villagers, presented the evidence, and laid the locket and letter upon the coffin, which she had prepared after discovering a forgotten crypt beneath the chapel. She recited words of forgiveness and release. As dawn broke, a warm light filled the chapel. The ghost of Isabella appeared one last time, faint smile, eyes shining, then ascended gently, dissolving into motes of light. That evening, Emma felt calm. The mansion no longer groaned or whispered. She heard no footsteps, saw no shadows. The clocks stood still, time restored. Portraits seemed less menacing. The next morning, she walked outside. The air was fresh. The morning sun burst from behind clouds. Emma looked back at the mansion. She whispered, "Rest now." In the years that followed, she lived peacefully in the mansion, restored it, and turned it into a retreat for writers and scholars. The story of the spirit in the mansion became her first novel, beloved by many. And sometimes, on quiet moonlit nights, she could almost feel a gentle presence of gratitude, not fear. Emma Lawrence stood at the crest of the hill as the first rays of the moon slipped behind heavy clouds. The mansion loomed before her like a slumbering giant, its turrets clawing at the sky, its windows dark and hollow. She shivered, gripping her satchel tighter, and took a deep breath. This was her new home, by blood and by condition. A letter had reached her from a lawyer. Emma's distant great-uncle, Archibald Ravenscroft, had left his entire estate to her, but only if she resided in the old mansion for 1 full year. Many prospective heirs had balked and walked away, but Emma, orphaned and eager for purpose and a fresh start, accepted. She entered through massive double doors, which creaked open at her push. The foyer was hollow and dark. Dust coated every surface. Cobwebs stretched between grand pillars. She flicked on a few lights. Most bulbs remained dead. In the fading light, she could see a sweeping staircase, portraits lining the walls, and a tapestry partially torn and hanging askew. The air tasted stale, like long-locked rooms breathing out old secrets. At first, Emma explored cautiously. She claimed the master suite, dragging her satchels across creaky floorboards. That first night, she tossed and turned, hearing distant creaks, murmurs, and what sounded like soft sobs. She dismissed them as wind or her imagination. Next morning, she discovered footprints in the dust on the corridor floor, small, like those of a woman in slippers, leading down a corridor she had not yet opened. Her heart fluttered. She followed them, holding a candle, to a narrow door at the end. Inside was a small sitting room, furnished with antique chairs and a faint scent of roses. On the desk lay a folded letter. "I'm sorry, Victor. Everything I did for love." The letter was unsigned, aged, edges browned. Over days, she unearthed more. In the library, behind a false panel, she found diaries belonging to a woman named Isabella Ravenscroft. Isabella's entries told a tale of deep love, longing, betrayal, despair. She had trusted Victor Ravenscroft, her husband or beloved, with her hopes, only to find out he'd gambled away her dowry, dealt in dark pacts, or turned to deceit. As the mansion's finances faltered, he had grown distant, secretive, and cruel. One evening, as Emma read by lamplight, the candles flickered violently. She froze as a portrait across the room swung outward on its hinges, revealing a hidden alcove. Within lay a small iron key, rusted but intact. She pocketed it with trembling fingers. The portrait swung back silently. That night, Emma heard footsteps overhead, pacing above her bedroom. She tiptoed upstairs, lifting the candle higher. The corridor above was long, painted in peeling wallpaper and flickering sconces. Doors stood half open, shadows flickering inside. At the end, a door slightly ajar revealed a spiral staircase leading to the tower. She hesitated, but her resolve urged her onward. Up in the upper tower, she found an old chest bound in iron. The rusted key fit its lock. Inside was a locket, ornate, silver, with an intricate rose engraved, and a folded letter sealed with crimson wax. She carefully broke the seal and read, "My dearest Isabella, the world we built has crumbled. I fear I have betrayed you beyond redemption. Know that even now my heart is broken. If I ever loved you, forgive me. Victor." The ghostly air in the tower turned cold. Emma clutched the locket. A sudden gust blew through the tower's windows, extinguishing her candle. The moonlight dimmed, and the room plunged into darkness. In that silence, a voice whispered, "Isabella, forgive me." A pale figure emerged, a woman in a flowing gown stained faintly with age, her eyes hollow with sorrow. Emma's heart raced, but she stood firm. "Isabella," she said gently, "I have found your locket, your letter. I will tell the truth. I will lay you to rest." The spirit drifted closer, transparent fingers reaching, trembling. Suddenly the portrait of Victor elsewhere in the mansion shattered. Emma felt a pull, like grief and anger swirling. The ghost recoiled, as though wounded by the memory. She spoke into the void. "Your story deserves justice. I will bring it forth." In the days following, Emma collected all records, letters, trust deeds, and hidden documents in the mansion's vaults. She traveled to the nearby village, poring over archives, speaking with elderly villagers. One old librarian told her, "I remember the scandal. Victor swindled villagers, promised them lands, then vanished with the deed funds. Isabella suffered disgrace. No one spoke for her." Armed with proof, Emma organized a gathering in the mansion's old chapel. She invited the current Ravenscroft descendants, local clergy, and villagers. In candlelit solemnity, she presented the locket, the letter, the documents, evidence of Victor's betrayal and financial crimes. She opened the crypt beneath the chapel, a hidden stairwell. There she revealed Isabella's remains in a simple coffin, now restored. In the hush, Emma spoke words of forgiveness and release. "Isabella Ravenscroft, I ask you to rise, be at peace, be free from pain. May the truth set you free." A breeze blew through the chamber, candle flames bending. Light filled the hall, soft and warm. The ghost of Isabella appeared at the coffin, pale, beautiful, sorrow in her eyes. She turned toward Emma, lips curved in a gentle smile. Her form brightened, shimmering like moonlit mist. She lifted a hand in farewell, then ascended upward, dissolving into motes of light that lingered a moment before vanishing entirely. Silence. The chapel was still. The air was calm. In the next days, Emma felt the mansion's atmosphere change. The corridors were no longer cold. Doors stayed in place. The clocks ticked with gentle regularity. Portraits no longer seemed to watch, but simply hang. At night, Emma slept soundly, no footsteps echoed. Seasons passed. The mansion regained life. Emma repaired rooms, installed lights, invited guests and scholars. She created a small retreat for writers, hosting gatherings, readings, and quiet reflection. The story of Isabella and the mansion's spirit became the centerpiece of her first novel, The Spirit in the Mansion, touching many hearts. Years later, Emma, older now, would sometimes walk in the quiet garden at dusk. On moonlit nights, she felt a gentle brush of wind, a soft sigh through leaves, like a whispered thanks. She would whisper, "Rest now, Isabella. You are free." And she believed that somewhere inside the old walls, the mansion had sighed in contentment too.